Hello, this is Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. I am Jonas Haldeman.
And I'm Larry Rhodes.
And we want you to know that if you don't believe in God, you're not alone. Right here in East Tennessee. Go ahead.
You can find free-thinking atheists and agnostics. This is a show for them and people curious about living in a life free of supernatural beliefs.
Today we're going to discuss life, death, and immortality. How do you live knowing that there's no afterlife?
And this is a call-in show. While we go over a few announcements, we invite you to start calling in now. Number is on the screen, 215-2288. Get a pen and paper. We'll give you our email address later on in the show. Be sure to visit our websites, rationalist.org and knoxvilleatheists.org. There we go, at the top of your screen. Happy hour at the Atheist Society of Knoxville is meet up at Barley's tonight after the show for food, drink, and conversation. Look for the silver-jacketed copy of The God Delusion standing upright on the table to find us.
Activities of the Rationalists of East Tennessee, why unions are needed in today's world more than ever, and why they need significant reinventing. Sunday morning, April 17th. Understanding the History of Life from Living Organisms, a visiting lecture by Brian O'Meara from the Department of Ecology and Evolutionary Biology at the University of Tennessee on Sunday, May 1st. Visit our websites for additional details, including times and locations.
If you have any out-of-town friends who might want to watch our program or like to pick it up yourself when you're not in the region, you can check it out at ctvknox.org. You can see it over here. Scroll down about one screen, you'll see a little purple viewing screen, and it starts streaming every Tuesday at 5 o'clock.
In the news, April 12th, 2011. Some birthday wishes. April is a bright month for Freethought birth anniversaries. Thomas Jefferson, born April 13th, 1743, and 202 years later, Christopher Eric Hitchens, born 13 April 1949. Thomas Jefferson, whose self-written epitaph reads in part, author of the Declaration of American Independence, of the Statute of Virginia for Religious Freedom, and the father of University of Virginia.
It's funny that he didn't put anything on there about being the President of the United States. I think I would probably have mentioned that. Christopher Hitchens, who has fun with the fact that he shares Jefferson's birthday today, or I guess it's tomorrow, shortly, is the author of The Portable Atheist, Reading Essentials for the Non-Believer, and God is Not Great, How Religion Poisons Everything. He welcomes being attacked as a drinker because I always think that it's a sign of victory when they move on to the ad hominem attacks. Edward Gibbon, April 27th, he was born 1737, was an English historian and member of Parliament, whose most important work, The History of the Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, was published in 6 volumes between 1776 and 1788. The Decline and Fall is known for the quality and irony of its prose, its use of primary sources, and its open denigration of organized religion. You can go ahead and do that.
Oh, Mary Wollstonecraft, born April 27th, 1759, was a 18th century British writer, philosopher, and advocate of women's rights. Wollstonecraft is best known for A Vindication of the Rights of Woman, published in 1792, in which she argues that women are not naturally inferior to men, but only appear to be so only because they lack education. She suggests that both men and women should be treated as rational beings and imagines a social order founded on reason. To quote, "Slavery to monarchs and ministers, which the world will long be freeing itself from, and whose deadly grasp stops the progress of the human mind, is not yet abolished." You can read more on http://www.brainyquote.com. Look for quotes, authors, M. Mary Wollstonecraft.
Ulysses S. Grant was born Hiram Ulysses Grant, April 22nd or 27th, 1822. Grant is the victorious Union general of the Civil War and later the 18th President of the United States. Grant was not a member of any church and was never baptized. After receiving 8 demerits as a cadet at West Point for failure to attend chapel, he protested in a letter that it was not Republican to be forced to go to church. In an annual address to Congress in 1875, he warned of the importance of correcting an evil that, if permitted to continue, will probably lead to great trouble in our land. It is the acquisition of vast amounts of untaxed church property. I would suggest the taxation of all property equally.
We also want to mention the essay contest for free-thinking students. Freedom from Religion Foundation has 3 categories with scholarship prizes up to $2,000 each. The topic for the college-bound high school seniors are: describe a moment that made you proud to be a freethinker. The dictionary definition of freethinker is one who forms his or her own opinion about religion based on reason rather than faith, tradition, and authority. Maybe you had a moment, experience, or epiphany that led to or affirmed your rejection of religion. Maybe you stood up for free thought or spoke out against encroachment of religion at school social events, in government, in the classroom instruction, or in your family. Use that moment to illustrate why you are a freethinker. Visit ffrf.org and navigate to Outreach and Events, and then the link Student Scholarship Essay Contest to see topics for the categories.
One more item I'd like to talk to about in the news before we go on. I'd like to state that we do have open lines right now. The call is 215-2288. We welcome your calls. Exodus 22:18 in the Bible says, "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live." Now, whether or not you believe in witches, or whether or not you think that there are witches, do you think that they should be killed? According to CNN, in Nigeria, some pastors of the southeast Nigerian church claim illness and poverty are caused by witches who bring terrible misfortune to those around them. These are not just like men or women that they call witches and then go after. These witches are children. They're usually anywhere from 6 to 10 to 12 years old. They are either killed, tortured, or outcast from the village. Now, the preacher will perform a service, and those denounced as witches must be cleansed through deliverance or cast out, say the pastors, many of whom charge between $300 and $2,000 for these services. In many cases, the accused are children who can be beaten or even killed if they're not thrown out by the family. There are also other pastors who believe education is a more powerful tool against the fear of witchcraft. But you can't deny that it says kill witches in the Bible, which is what makes this type of thing possible. Our program today, I think you had that.
Oh, okay. Some members of Ask and RET send us their reaction to questions asked by today's topic. Today's topic, again, is life, death, and immortality. How do we live knowing there is no afterlife? Ask and RET have an email listserv. For those of you who do not know, this is a private forum to which members can receive any email sent in the list. Of course, members can send an email to the list as well. We share ideas and insights of interest to us. Here are some insights that were offered to the list.
Going back to the phone calls for a second, it's a reminder to let you know that there is a 7-second delay. If you call in, we do request that you mute your television and listen to us over the phone, or you'll be confused as to what we're saying versus what you're hearing. One of our members called F, I've not heard it from my own ears. I would never believe that Christians would say something to the effect that if you do not believe in God, you might as well kill yourself, even though I've heard something similar 2 or 3 times myself. I guess that they heard a preacher sometimes say it and never thought about it much. Listen to this, says F. Listen to this. So this is our only life. Don't let an imaginary friend mess it up, and do not let a preacher leech off of you. Hear, hear.
I have some other things that weren't on your list.
Okay.
This is from M. I was okay before I was born, so I'm sure I'll be fine when I die. It's a scary feeling to know that I will die. However, I don't have a choice, so I'm happy that I'm alive. Why spend my life worrying about something that I have no control over? It's very liberating, actually. I would hate to be obsessed about death and an afterlife. Sometimes that has no basis in reality. I'm more apt to become a millionaire by means of hard work and sacrifice than end up in eternity in some make-believe human-created cloud world with angels and harps and white-bearded men on a throne. I think it's very destructive to the human mind, emotions, for emotions to be focused on such a paradox.
It is a paradox. I've always thought that having God watch your every thought and watch your every move and action is the epiphany of paranoia. It defines paranoia, that you constantly think someone is after you, someone who has the potential to harm you for any of your discretions. From T, one of our members, I don't know that there isn't an afterlife. As I see it, the burden of proof is on those who say there isn't an afterlife, just as much as there is that there is an afterlife. In other words, if you say it one way or another, if you're claiming that there's an afterlife or claiming that there's not, the burden of proof is on you. If you say I don't believe it, then there's not much of a burden that's on you. It's a form of your own personal beliefs.
But on the other hand, I would ask for evidence, and
yes.
There is no evidence
for an afterlife. Mm-hmm.
Okay, from Z, how do we live knowing there's no afterlife? For me, whether or not there is a God or an afterlife doesn't matter, even though a lot of my time is spent contemplating the issues. I believe that if I believe in a reward from God or fear of His wrath in the afterlife, then it's impossible for me to be good. All of the actions will be invested in a speculation that has no verifiable proof, and therefore all of my investment is useless and inauthentic and self-serving. How do I live, or rather, how do I make life mean something so I desire to go on without living without existential crisis? Daniel Dennett said in a speech that I heard him give on TED, the key to happiness is getting involved in something bigger than yourself. Now, that is a big part of why people join churches and mosques, for that feeling of belonging to something bigger and eternal. Based on my earlier statement that belief in an afterlife of reward and punishment makes my investment inauthentic, I will say that this organized religion is inauthentic investment towards something bigger than ourselves. To me, religion is extremely inefficient at producing good works. It also retards progress in many areas where we could, in actuality, be far beyond where we are, and this includes ethics and morality. This way, I find meaning in something bigger than myself is to decide to invest in the human race and our world. I can't see any better investment than survival and well-being of our species. We have a world, we have to have a world where we want to live in order to survive. It must also be a healthy world, and we must be happy with a more sustainable existence. It seems to me that humans, being contemplative beings, can have a tendency towards self-destruction. I believe religion glorifies the suicidal urge physically, intellectually, and rationally by promoting good life in the next world.
Forget this one.
Let's move on. If I could, I would like to make a point about some of the effects of
living for the future, for the next life,
of belief in this. And one of these is these beliefs result in unjust laws. Let us begin with something current, like Article 9, Section 2 of the Tennessee State Constitution, titled, "No atheist shall hold a civil office." No person who denies the being of God or a future state of rewards and punishments which is what we're talking about today,
right. Mm-hmm.
shall hold any office in the civil department of this state. Similar provisions can be found in state constitutions of Arkansas, Maryland, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, and Texas. And if you're following this on the map, it's the area we call the Bible Belt. While the first part makes second-class citizens of Buddhists, humanists, atheists, agnostics, and freethinkers, all freethinkers by other names, the second part takes in Jews, Unitarian Universalists, liberal Christian Protestants who might believe just God would not send the fruits of his creation to hell. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, the clauses establishing second-class membership or citizenship for believers are seldom enforced. That's kind of an aside as something that really affects how we can live our lives.
Mm-hmm. And this from the government. And those laws are still on the book in 9 states.
And it's unlikely that they will be repealed anytime soon. They'll probably
never be addressed. What's really bad is that there was a former president, George H.W. Bush, George Bush's father, who said he didn't consider atheists citizens. Now that's pretty bad. When you say that a large segment of your country, who are otherwise productive, gainfully employed people who are good neighbors and friends and co-workers, aren't citizens just because they don't believe in your God, that's pretty harsh, especially when it comes from the President of the United States.
And I would assert that if you met someone and just judged their behavior and not asked them, well, what church do you go to, you would be unable to tell any atheist from any of those who hold to more traditional beliefs.
Yeah, I'd say a good 15% of the population, according to the latest great poll, said that they designated no religion. And you can say a lot of the people who say that are atheists, and many of them who don't say no religion are irreligious, but they want to put down a certain religion because of their ethnic background or their family upbringing.
You know, Larry, part of my motivation for getting involved in Freethought Forum and these kind of activities is to try to mold a world that is, or society, that is free for people to speak their beliefs without fear of repercussions in their job, family, and community.
Especially from the government, who has power over your body. They can put you away or take away your freedoms or fine you. And that's something that ASK and RET work for as a goal of their organizations, but also all the members work for it individually as well. From another member, A, we live a more tranquil life, knowing that there is no all-judging being watching us every moment, and no final judgment of eternal punishment. Frankly, religion turns us into a bunch of psychotics, thinking someone is watching us at all times. It gets back to what I was talking about earlier.
Why don't you go on?
Okay. And from M, for me, not suffering from religiosity is a bigger freedom than even what I feel being an American citizen. Not having to ruminate when anything lucky or great happens about not giving some ritual thanks to a deity is also wonderful. Then also not having to wonder if I am being punished when bad things occur. How horrible it is to also suffer from pretzel logic with that God's will rationale for tragedy and not having the burden of that. I am not racked with worry and guilt about my potentially sinful behaviors or those of my family and friends, knowing that we better enjoy our time together here and now instead of putting things off for a collective afterlife that might not include me or my family or my favorites. I like also saving a lot of time from prayer that is better wasted on follies of my own choosing.
Oh, well said. Mm-hmm. And from Jay, this is where too many great thinkers get ensnared. We concentrate too often on thinking about imagining the afterlife, where here and now we should occupy our full time and energy. It is wonderful to image. We don't use our right brain enough. IMHO?
In my humble opinion.
Oh, okay. I'm not a tweeter. Mm-hmm. However, if you cannot absolutely know there is an afterlife, concentrate on what you can know, or may know. Imagining an afterlife rather than a better reality is a waste of brain power if one can't will it into existence. After birth, there is life, however short, long, interesting, entrapping, enlightening it is. After all, or after the ball, the storm, the dance, life goes on. So much is thrown in our path when I think of the after, I recall a marvelous saying from the Vietnamese. Now, my house is burned down. I can see the moon more clearly. If we remove the roadblocks, previous unseen paths reveal themselves, reveal countless choices and opportunities.
So true. We're coming up on the, I guess we're not. I misread the time, excuse me.
I misread it too.
Yeah. I think they maybe changed the clock on. And another one from M. After going under anesthesia for about 9 times, I see death as that anesthesia from which no one comes around. Each time I've had it, I've tried my best to stay awake and remember the last time I fall under, but there's no way to defeat it. When the brain shuts down, it's over. And when it shuts down forever, to me, that is death. I'd say to us, too. The personality, if you think about it, the personality is based on certain organic structures in your brain. You can alter your personality, your soul, if you will, by the application of medication or surgery or trauma. You can be a better person or a worse person, happier, sadder, because if you manipulate the structures of your brain, it can affect the way that you feel and act. If you had a lobotomy, a frontal lobotomy, it can remove your personality altogether. And that is brain-oriented, brain-connected. When your brain dies, that's it. Your personality ends, and there is no such thing as soul. It's never been proven, never been had any kind of evidence that anything exists after you die other than your physical remains. Did you have something else?
Well, let me add another little comment here about, if I can find my notes here. Let me just go ahead with another
the
from
God
him.
delusion.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
The God delusion, page 357. Being dead will be no different from being unborn. I shall be just as I was in the time of William the Conqueror, or dinosaurs, or the trilobites. There's nothing to fear in that, but the process of dying will be, depending on our luck, painful and unpleasant, the sort of experience from which we have become accustomed to being protected by general anesthesia, like having your appendix out.
Right. Now, that's something to be feared as far as atheists consider it, as much as we have a common opinion of anything. The fact that you will die doesn't necessarily have to be easy death, and sometimes deaths are very hard from very painful accidents or disease. Sometimes they can be drawn out for years. I personally had an aunt who died, took her 7 years to die from cancer, and she was bedridden most of that time. If you're a believer, you cannot have a doctor-assisted suicide. I mean, that's part of your dogma. You know, it's the same thing as killing yourself. It's an automatic ticket to hell. As an atheist, we do not believe in afterlife. We don't believe that somebody's watching us. If we decide that we need to put an end to our own life, to put ourselves out of the kind of pain that you would be subjected to from something like that, we can make that decision, and it's a rational decision. Of course, some say it's not rational when you're feeling that much pain, but ending it would be rational.
I had written some comments here about a simple life theory that bears on something you said a moment ago. Mm-hmm. If one has no understanding of the molecular processes that are common to all life, then how might one explain it? What changes when a breathing organism draws its last breath? Is there some unseen vapor that enlivens the organic machine that leaves in the last breath? Could this vapor be the source of consciousness? Might we call it a spirit? Where would it come from and where would it go? At first glance, this simple spirit theory might seem to explain this aspect of life. An English physician once tried to measure the weight of the spirit or soul by weighing a corpse before and after death, but could find no difference. When attempting to explain other aspects of life, things must be added, and the life theory gets more and more complex, requiring development of complex theologies. This is not too different from the scientific method, but in science, when the theory gets too complex, it's abandoned.
I've had many times believers ask me, well, where do you think your soul goes when you die? Well, I answer, well, when you're watching TV and you turn it off, where's the picture go? You know, it's a pattern of energy that exists for a while in our universe, and we recognize it as being something that's alive and moving, and then it just goes away. It dissipates. The screen just no longer shows an image that was there a minute ago, and it's pretty much with the energy and the atoms in our body. The energy would dissipate fairly quickly, the atoms not so quickly. Of course, the atoms would never go away. You can't destroy matter, but the organic compounds of our body will be decomposed and put back into the soil, and you can look at that as some type of immortality. The atoms in your body have been used by other people and other animals and other plants in the history of the earth, and will probably be used by many more in the history as the earth goes on. You can pass on your genes to your children. You can pass on your memes or ideas to other people through books and video and recordings. There's a lot of ways of becoming immortal. The people that we talked about today, in most part, were dead, but their ideas and their parts of their personality survive, and that's about the only type of immortality we can hope for.
Yeah, along the lines of immortality, evidence suggests that life on Earth has existed for about 3.7 billion years. All life forms today share fundamental molecular mechanisms supporting the belief that all life forms originated with a single-cell organism. Most single-cell organisms grow in number by dividing or cloning, reproducing identical copies. Since the parent cell does not die in the division process, it might be said that such life forms possess a degree of immortality.
Yeah, it kind of blew my mind the first time I heard about amoebas and saying, the amoeba that you see today may very well be the same amoeba that evolved, millions of years ago, because they don't die, they split. Welcome to Freethought Forum. You're on the air. May we have your name?
Hello, this is Faithless Forest. I was screening your calls, and I wanted to relay to you a call that you just got.
Okay.
Caller called in, and he said, "You're all going to burn in hell," and then hung up. And, well, I thought I would help him along since he couldn't seem to understand the spirit of the program, and relay this message into you and let you guys respond to it. Okay. I'm going to say bye, and I hope some other callers call in who are a bit more civil.
Okay. We get this thread all the time, of course. If we don't believe the way they believe, then we will be punished, basically is what it is. And they don't have to do the punishment, they just have to deliver the threat. Let me say to that caller, if he's still calling, everybody goes to somebody's hell. You will be going to the Muslim hell, or the Hindu hell, or you won't be at the final reckoning at the great battle of Ragnarok, or whatever the name of that Norway god is, battle, and you won't sit at the great feast at the end of it. There are thousands of religions. Each religion has an origin story and an afterlife story and things that you have to do in this life to protect the next life. There has never been any proof of a soul. There's never been proof that it exists after you die. There's never been any proof that it lives forever or has a place to go after you die. And hell has never been proven. Heaven has never been proven. Anything after life, anything supernatural has never been proven. So it's pretty easy just to dismiss these type of threats as for what they are. We don't believe the same way they do, so they threaten us. And we've gotten this so many times, it kind of rolls off.
Yeah, I received a phone call after the program last week, and I tried to, be very welcoming, considerate, listen to what the person had to say, and then at the end, the fellow just said, "Well, ha 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 ha," in a way that. I think he did not display the same kind of respect for what I was trying to say as I was trying to show for him.
Yeah, typical. Go ahead. I'm going to load up the question that people usually, like what if you're wrong and stuff, and we'll talk about it here in a second. But go ahead.
Okay. Well, I talked about the beginnings of life and how perhaps some of those original cells are here today by a simple process of division, but so that they may have a degree of immortality. But this is not so for more complex multicellular organisms. Except for vegetative cloning, each generation starts anew from a single cell, growing to maturity and eventually dying from injury, disease, predation, or degeneration of cellular mechanisms that support its life. While in the broader sense, each of us is part of the immortal chain stretching back to that first cell as individuals. We are born, live, and inevitably die. So when people speak of life, they often mean the period of existence of consciousness, that consciousness ceases to exist with the functional death of the brain, though parts of the body may continue to live for decades through organ donations. Hey, think of that as organ donations as a way of assuring limited immortality.
Right.
This definition has limits, though. In the extraction of stem cells from early embryo, the embryo does not have enough functionally differentiated cells to have a consciousness, and the stem cells would be of little use if they do not go on living, perhaps for decades.
Right. This is the mid-program break. We are a little bit past the mid, but we'd like to go ahead and identify. We have a phone call, so we'll hold off on that and take our phone call. Welcome to Freethought Forum. My name is Larry. You're on the air. May we have a name or a nickname?
Yeah, my name is Tony. I found this mildly entertaining exchange on the internet today, and it's related to what you guys are talking about. I figured it's real brief. I figured you'd get a kick out of it.
Cool.
One guy, presumably an atheist, says, besides, why would you choose to believe that someone like me will go to hell? This is a problem I have with religion. Someone who doesn't believe in any religion to lead a good moral life. But because he thought different, he has to go to hell for eternity. There was a response that says, let me ask you this. If I had a company that makes cars and I have people who work for me, but then you come along and just do the same thing as others, but not for me, you do it just for the heck of it, should you expect me to pay for you? And, likening that as a reward to heaven, well, why would I let you in? The first person responds, well, I wouldn't expect you to run me over with a car, back up and run me over and over and over again.
Right. As usual, it's a very, very, very poor analogy. They expect you to already have their mindset, and that you owe the maker for your being made, and for your first ancestor sinning against him and having inherited all that sin from mankind and not be worthy of his attentions and all that stuff. It's just all make-believe garbage that's just just drives you crazy, especially when they try to come up with a broken analogy like that for something that just doesn't work.
Right, and it's the whole false dichotomy thing. It's either I'm right or I'm wrong, so therefore I'm right.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you. Did you have any other questions or comments?
Nope, that's it. You guys keep doing a good job.
All right. Thank you very much for calling in. We were talking about the threat of going to hell. So many times there'll be a believer will be talking to us and say, well, what if you're wrong? You can believe anything you want to, but you're going to probably burn in hell. Well, that's basically Pascal's wager. I'd like to talk about that a little bit. You really can't go over too much because it comes up just about all the time that you're talking to someone. There are several things about Pascal's wager that make it don't work. Let's go through it a few times, or just at least once. They say, what if you're wrong? If you live a good life, you're a Christian, and you go to church, and you do all the things that you want, and you believe in God, and you die, you go to heaven. But if you do the same thing, you live a good life, and you work hard, and you take care of your family, and you don't believe in God, and you go to hell. If he's real, you've lost everything. But if he's not real, I haven't lost anything. That's the way that Pascal's wager goes. Well, first of all, few, if any, atheists disbelieve in deities out of choice. You can't make up your mind to believe in something, just say, I believe it. How many times did you actually believe in Tinkerbell and Peter Pan? You believe in things because you have enough evidence to justify beliefs. We, in our lives, a lot of us, even me, started off in a Christian home and brought up in Christian church, and I realized that the stuff that I've been taught is being taught by other religions as well, just as fervently. And once I started studying it, like 1 Peter 3:15 says, be ever prepared to defend your reasons for your belief. Well, I did that. And now I don't believe because there's just not that many good reasons out there and no evidence that any of it really happened. We are convinced that he truly does not believe. Which God? When you say, if I believe in God and you don't, there are 10,000 gods out there and 100,000 religions all over the world. What if you're wrong? Worldwide, there are thousands of gods. In America alone, Christianity has over 1,000 sects. You could say that you believe in God and you're going to heaven, but the church next door to you that you say they're going to hell are saying the same thing about you. Everybody's going to somebody's hell. And if he really does exist, if God does exist, he's not stupid. He would know that I don't believe, that I really don't believe. And that what you're saying is I should say I believe. There's a big difference there. So you're saying that I should say I believe and that God is just stupid and he'll realize it, that he won't realize it and he'll let me into heaven. Also, you couldn't just say, I believe in God, like you want me to do. You would also have to believe in the whole religious package. In Christianity, that would also mean believing in angels, demons, Satan, heaven, hell, sins, saints, resurrection, prophet, miracles, cherubim, on and on and on and on. You can't just believe in God. You've got to buy into the entire religious dogma of the particular church that you're talking about. And if there is no God, you have lost something by worshiping him, if there isn't a God. You have wasted a good portion of your life performing various devotional rituals, attending church, praying, reading scripture, and discussing your deity with his other followers, not to mention giving your hard-earned money to the church, wasting your intelligence on theological endeavors, and boring the hell out of people who don't really want to hear about your good news. And that's about it. Believing when you actually don't, you would have lost a great deal of self-respect by being intellectually dishonest with yourself for your whole life. So think about it next time you say, what if you're wrong? What if I'm right? There's lots of problems with that program. That's Pascal's wager.
Okay, let's get back to our mid-program break. Where we identify our sponsors, and
not going to happen. We got a phone call. Have another call. Welcome to Freethought Forum. May we have a name?
David.
Kevin? David. Okay. Hi. Welcome.
Hi. How are you? I would just like to comment on what you said about having to buy into the whole concept of a particular religion or a particular whole encompassing belief system.
Yes.
And I would disagree with that statement. I grew up, my father's a United Methodist minister, and I grew up in the church and was very, very involved. But recently, going to college and being and seeing a different perspective of the world, my faith has been strengthened, but yet I do not attend a specific church, and I do not prescribe to an all-encompassing ideology. I believe that there is a God, and God shows me the path in all ways.
Do you believe in Jesus, then?
I do, actually.
Okay, well, do you know that just about every Christian on earth will say that you're going to hell anyway? That's what I'm talking about. The problems with Christian and all religious dogma.
It is not them who make the final decision. Judge not, yet ye be judged. I mean, I have no right to judge another man to tell him that he's going to hell. And so when people come and say, you're going to hell, I completely disagree with that.
Okay.
I think that's the worst method of possibly spreading the gospel at all.
Okay. Well, okay. But you say that you do believe in Jesus?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe in the Bible. I do not prescribe to any one denomination, any one all-encompassing
Okay, but you believe that none of us are going to hell because God wouldn't send us there. Is that correct?
No, I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying that. How do I say this exactly? I think the two could judge by saying this denomination believes this denomination believes that. I think God is beyond all of that. God does not have a certain denomination that he prescribes to. He is above it all, and
how do you know
as
that?
we are people and live in different ways.
How do you know that?
How do I know that?
Yes.
I mean, if God is who he tells us he is, he is.
In what? In the Bible? Are you talking about in the Bible?
I'm talking about, I mean, the Bible says that, but any sort of religion that says there is one God, it says he is in and above all. Does it not?
All right. Okay. Are atheists going to hell?
It's not my place to judge.
No, I'm just asking you, in your version of religion, the beliefs that you would say that you adhere to, are atheists going to hell?
I can't judge your soul.
I'm not asking you to judge my soul. I'm asking you to tell me what your version of religion would say about that. What I'm saying is, some people go to heaven according to you and your religion, however it stands right now. You believe in Jesus. I assume you believe that the only way to heaven is through Jesus, and if you don't go through Jesus, you're going to hell. Is that correct?
I think it's following God in a much. He directs your life in all methods, in all ways.
How?
How?
Yeah.
You see it in the little things.
Well, I don't know what you mean. I see life. I see people interacting with each other. I see the world going on. I see things happening. You obviously see God in little things. I'm sorry I don't. But what I'm saying is you have to...
Whether you see him or not. Relationships. Relationships are the core of what religion and... I mean, I don't want to say religion because I have a very terrible association with the term religion. I mean, religion is a worldly term that is associated with any... I mean, a cult can be a religion that... I mean, Waco, Texas, where you got them all to kill themselves. That was a religion, was it not? You can't associate that term, but...
Well... Go ahead.
Okay, I think Larry's driving towards some arguments that would question how you go about your beliefs. And I think one of the difficulties is kind of tied up in the various creeds that we were talking about a little while ago, is that it's very difficult to pin anyone down about their beliefs because things keep changing. If you were to start out and write down everything and say, this is what I believe God is, then...
but that's our interpretation of God. God is beyond any sort of interpretation we could possibly have.
Okay,
we try to put him in a box when he
usually
cannot be even described in our words, much less perfectly, understood.
Well, let's just say you're not really...
in the minute aspects, but
you're not describing God. You're just saying the word God, and you're making claims about him. You're not giving us any reason to believe the stuff that you're claiming, statements that you're making, have any validity. You're just reeling off a freelance of religion here. Why should we believe that God is real?
I see him in my life. I can't... how he is acting in your life.
How did you see him? Okay.
At some point...
How did you see him in your life? Maybe relating your story about that would help us.
Okay. being involved in the church very much, having my father as a minister.
That tells me about the church.
Very much textbook, seeing the typical religious path, and then I had strayed and did a 180 completely. I had gone the complete opposite direction and lived as worldly as you could possibly imagine. And it was only once I realized that my life, living as secular as I possibly could, and fuck God, pardon my French, screw religion, screw all this stuff, that you realize that that's the core of everything and how it can.
Well, okay, you're telling me about your father and your church and your feelings about how you're living your life, and how you wanted to abandon that and go back to the church after you felt that it was hurting you. But that's all personal information. That's all emotional rationalization. We need to know what evidence. We've been asking this on shows for a long, long time. It's been asked on every website.
And I apologize. This is my first time to watch the show.
But
so
what evidence is there of a God? I mean, we're not closed-minded. If we had evidence of a God, we'd probably be theists. We don't see any. We don't know of any. Nobody's produced any. And because, I mean, every religion says God is something else than every other religion, it's kind of hard to zero in on it.
That is true. Okay. I mean, I do not come here to criticize whatsoever or anything. I would consider myself fairly open-minded, but I also feel that once I've gone to try to see any other source of life other than God, that it was only once I searched everywhere else that I found that was the only he is the only true. Okay,
we really thank you for calling in. We appreciate your viewpoint there, and we do.
Hopefully, I was a little bit more civil than a few of the callers.
But
of your ones that tell you you're going to hell.
Yeah, no,
I mean, I don't believe.
No, we appreciate that too. It's always good to have a good conversation, and the give and take is gratifying.
And do call us back again another time.
Feel free to call back anytime.
Okay. Well, I hope you have a pleasant day.
Okay, thank you. You too.
Bye.
We're mid-program break. It was a little late. You want to go ahead and...
I'll be Larry. In case you're just tuning in, this is the Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. Freethought Forum is funded jointly by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee and individual contributions. We would like to thank MK for her support. You can send us feedback at the email address shown on your screen. But do not wait. This is a call-in show, and we are live today. The Atheist Society of Knoxville meets several times during the week. We have
meetups.
A meetup.
For fun and food and drink. Visit the Ask website. Okay. On the screen. Visit the Ask website on the screen and join. Find times and locations. We'll be going down to Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria right after the show. We usually go down every Tuesday between 5 and 7 or so. Come down and join us if you're not coming down to preach, proselytize, or provoke. The Rationalists of East Tennessee supports Camp Quest of the Smokies. It's a fun science summer school adventure. Visit the website on our screen or email us for more information on that. Both the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee help provide a social outlet where if you don't believe in God, you're not alone. And we have another phone call. Okay. Welcome to Freethought Forum. May we have a name or a nickname?
Zach.
Hey, Zach.
Yes, I was listening to the last caller, and I appreciated his kindness when he's trying to share his ideas, but I did have a response, and I've been on a similar quest where it started out that I just couldn't believe that God could be good and send people to hell for eternity to burn anymore. And so I really started looking into the ideas of God, and have gone through about every kind of religion and metaphysical idea that there is, and always found that it was sort of lacking. And I just wanted to kind of respond to the last caller by saying that one danger we have in starting to say that God is everything out there, or unverifiable, is that we just start to consign everything that's mysterious. We start giving it the name of God, and when you do that, you can actually end up closing your mind to discovering new things. Like in science, if we said, like when we said that the solar system is, that's set up in a certain way, and God set it up that way, and we can't question that because it's a mystery. Mm-hmm. We wouldn't have discovered how astronomy works and all these great things. And it's the same thing with ethics and morality. I think that if we start saying, that's something that only God can deal with, then we're selling ourselves short, not going to the nth degree, discovering what is the best way to live, what is the best way to treat each other, because this is a human world that we live in, and we have to solve those problems ourselves, I believe. I think that everywhere that you start ascribing God to your mysteries, is just God is just a name that we give to things that we don't understand yet.
And when your preacher says that you don't have to understand, just have faith, faith doesn't give you any answers. It just stops you from asking questions. And usually that's all the preacher is wanting you to do, just stop asking questions.
Right. Well, I just wanted to call in and make that brief response. I'm sorry, I got a sore throat, so I can't really talk anymore, but I'll see you guys next week.
All right, thank you, Zach.
Well, thank you very much for calling. We really appreciate it.
Okay.
Oh, you were just starting to talk about Camp Quest, which is one of my areas. I happen to be director of Camp Quest of the Smoky Mountains. It's held in this year, the first week of August, and you can find out about it by looking in the News Sentinel Summer Camp Guide that was in the Sunday newspaper.
Hold it up a little higher there.
Oh, okay. Oh, thank you, Sam.
That little brochure is put out by the News Sentinel, I see. Yes.
We've had some problems in past years. I begin to think that, these Knox moms might have something against an atheist camp, but this time they got everything right, and I thank them for doing so.
Okay, and we have another phone call. Welcome to Freethought Forum. Do we have a name or nickname?
Yes, hello.
Hello.
This is Phil.
Hey, Phil. You have a question?
Yes, I had a comment to make concerning Pascal's wager. Some people may say that, let's say you believe in God and it's not real. It turns out not to be true. Would he be lost? Well, I came across a very interesting quote the other day which meant a lot to me, and it was by a French playwright named Chamfort. Pleasure may come from illusion, but happiness can come only of reality. And that meant a particularly lot to me, because sometimes I think religion can serve a purpose and give comfort, maybe when someone is very sick or dying, or somebody needs comfort where comfort is not possible almost. But that to me can only be termed as pleasure or comfort, can come from illusion.
Right.
But if you take into consideration an evidence-based belief in a worldview, I think that true happiness can only come when one realizes what reality is. And I'm not saying that I can prove there's no God, but however, I think that the burden of proof for those who claim that there is a God is such that I can say with as much assurance that there is no God as they can say that there is God. And I'm not getting into a debate over whether I can prove that, but I'm just saying that a quest for reality will result in true happiness.
Right, true. And I agree that to be happy and in a reality, you need to know what that reality is so that you can face it on your own terms, or its own terms.
I agree with that. Yes, I agree with that.
And that would help you in your outcomes more times than not.
Thank you. That's the only comment I had. Thank you very much.
Phil, before you leave,
yeah.
We, of course, recognize your voice, and
he's a member.
We know the journey that you have made to from your beginnings to where you are now. And I would like to invite you to come sit on this side of the camera sometime. In my experience, you've had some very good insights. And,
I would like that.
I think people could profit by your sharing those with.
Well, I'd be happy to do that sometime. Yes, I sometimes feel that I have more empathy for, say, Christians who believe in a very fundamental way, because that's exactly where I came from many years ago. And I'd be happy to sometime come in and sit and try to humbly answer any questions I might be able to.
Hey, we got that on record now, Phil.
That's right. I'll give you a call.
Okay.
We'll set up some time.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Phil. And did you have anything else from your list of things that you wanted to talk about?
Oh, well, I
getting down to 3 minutes left.
Getting down to it's getting short, but I wanted to comment on some of the evils that have resulted from this idea of an afterlife. We hear in the news almost daily of Muslim suicide bombers exhorted by religious leaders to kill as the last act of their lives. The reward? A place in heaven with 17 virgins. We wonder what women, suicide bombers, if they get 17 studs.
Yeah, really.
And what if child bombers? What would be the effect of this practice if people believe that heaven is a hoax?
And we're going to try to take one more last call real quick. We have about a minute left. May we have a name or nickname? You're on Freethought Forum. Please go ahead.
Oh, this is Glenn.
Hey, Glenn. How you doing? Hello.
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing you very well.
Okay, you've got about a minute left before we end the show. Can you have a question or comment real quick?
And please see that your TV is turned down.
It is.
Okay. Okay. Did you have something you wanted to say?
Yes, I did. What if the story isn't true, and yet it's a good story? And
I like a good story.
How to be?
Huh? You mean what story? The story of Jesus, or what?
Yes, the New Testament.
Right.
It's a good story, I think, and even if it's not true, it ought to be.
Well, there's a lot of things wrong with it. We don't really have a problem to go into it. But him taking on all of the world's sins so that we can get off scot-free, that's vicarious redemption, and there's a problem with that. As far as a story, though, it's kind of a riveting story, I guess, if you get it by the right writer. The Bible isn't that well written anyway as far as a riveting story, but I understand it. It could be a good story. Thank you for your call. We're going to have to...
And Jesus had a lot of good ideas that have changed the way we think about humanity.
Yeah. He was one of many, though, who had those ideas.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll be closing the show now. Thank you for calls, all the calls, and thanks Sam and Lee for for manning the equipment for us tonight. If you'd like to send us some email, send it to freethoughtforum@yahoo.com. Jonas, did you have anything?
Well, let's see. I think our time's about up.